Um, Hi everyone, and welcome to Pollstar. My name is Gideon. I'm the European editor for Pollstar, and I am very, I don't often use this word. I don't think I ever used it, but in this case, I think it's warranted. I'm very honored to be joined by Rudolf Schenker, Matthias Jabs, and Klaus Meine of the Scorpions, who I don't think need any further introduction. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for taking the time today to speak to me. First wanted to start off with asking, you're in the studio in Hanover. Everyone knows you're working on a new album, so how's that going?
It's going very well so far. It's very different to work with our producer, Greg Fidelman. He's on the other side, the Atlantic, in Los Angeles, and around breakfast time, we have him zoomed in, and then we discuss the latest song we're working on, but we're making great progress so far. It's great.
Just because I find it very interesting, could you just briefly explain like how it works? Do you send stuff back and forth with him? Are you working in real time on songs? What's the process like?
Due to the time change, 9 hours, we start here European time around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then we work on songs, we record stuff, and just about like 6 p.m. He's going to join us via Zoom, what we do now, and so it's like a video conference, and so we can talk about things, we can play him the music, we hear what he is hearing with a short delay in his room, and then we discuss the new status, and then he's going to suggest some changes, and we try those while he's listening, and then he comes up with stuff to do for the next day, and that we did that for like 5 weeks, and we really made a great progress.
Sounds great. Can you give any indication, or I mean, I totally understand if it's top secret, but can you give any indication of how many songs are already ready, or at least in a state where you're like, yeah, that's how we're going to record it?
What are you looking at? About 20? 20 years.
About
20.
Yeah.
All right.
No, that's still rising. Yeah. It's still a process right now, but there's lots and lots of material.
Yeah.
We started writing last year, actually, and actually exactly a year ago we went on the road, playing lots and lots of shows over here in Europe, and later the year 2019 we went to Latin America, played Rock in Rio, and when we came back from Australia, Southeast Asia, earlier this year, around March, and then we picked it up and started working on the new material, and there were lots of new songs coming in as well, so, but it's piling up, and it's exciting to work.
Especially the road is a very good, inspiring for us, because still, after all these years, the world is changing. You always, when you go on the road again, you see the world in a different frame. So in this case, we have lots of great experience on the road and bring this into our songs. And that's the first very big signal which comes and gives us the force to really do something special for the fans, for the whole music world, and hopefully we're on the right track. I mean, Greg is very excited as well. He was very surprised that we had so much stuff, and it was very fast in the first way, and that's a good sign.
I mean, I know you mentioned on other interviews you already had songwriting sessions also way before Corona hit, but is it fair to say that the current crisis also kind of like shapes the songwriting, or do you try to just leave that out and in the hopes that this will be a brief episode, and are you just taking your experiences from the road in it? Or I know you wrote Signs of Hope, of course, but is the rest of the album at all inspired by this whole mad situation?
Well, a little bit, you know, there are a couple of songs where you try to express your feelings about what you're going through. But no, I think the plan with Greg was to make an album with lots of attitude, and we tried to focus on the old Scorpions DNA back from the 80s, you know, albums like Animal Magnetism, Blackout, and so on. And we tried to really this time to focus on the harder edge material and bring in Greg Fidelman. We used to work with Slipknot, Metallica, you know, so there was an overall kind of vibe and an overall plan to try to go back to the old days. If we can do this, if we really can pull this off, who knows, after so many years, you know, but we have some kind of a direction where we want to go to, you know. So there are lots of rockers, up-tempo songs, also some heavy songs, and also a couple of ballads, you know. But I think that's a typical Scorpions DNA we work around, but there's a pretty clear direction and focus that especially Greg takes care we, you know, don't lose this focus on where we want to go.
Yeah, and speaking about taking it back, I'd also like to briefly just take it back to a couple of moments that we already touched on for the big magazine feature, just because I think it'd just be interesting to find out a little bit more. And I wanted to just start with your first show in the States, which was 1979 in Cleveland, correct me if I'm wrong, in front of some 40,000. And I know it's a very long time ago, so feel free to say it's too long ago, but do you remember the vibe, you know, backstage? I mean, I can imagine that must have been the most exciting thing in the entire world to finally be playing the States. So do you remember how it was backstage? Were you nervous? Did you look at each other? Do you have a ritual? What did you do before first stepping out in front of this huge US audience that really was the first introduction to your sound?
This was very, very early, we know. I think we had to be on stage 10 or 10:30 or something around. After us was AC/DC, and of course it was for us the explosion of unbelievable feelings, because seeing all these bands, Ted Nugent, Aerosmith live, and also talking to the people from Journey. He was there especially for us because it was a great story. He mentioned to us that he was driving with a bass player somewhere in the United States, you know, and out of the radio came Loving You Sunday Morning. And Neil, he was very excited. So the bass player, hey, this is a band who will become very big. I tell you one thing. And that was the reason why he was coming, especially at 10 o'clock in the morning when we played, to see us and see whether he was right or wrong. And he was maybe right. But on the other hand, when we went on stage, it was an explosion of what we had hold back to have the wish going to the United States. We were so explosive that we had maybe half an hour to play, but we forgot the time, and we was over time already, and the whole organization was, what's happening is this bad German guys. And there was nearly to unplug us, but we found the right curve and we finished the right moment, but it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was the first time in America for all of us, and I remember the first time we ever sat in the tour bus also. I think we landed in New York and we were picked up by a tour bus and driven to Ohio, Cleveland, and everything we saw and experienced was like brand new for us. You know, the big stadium, you know, all the other bands, like hundreds of crew people, big production, all these things were brand new. And as Rudolf said, you know, we enjoyed it so much, we forgot to, you know, the length of our set, we just kept playing. And yeah.
And we stayed in the coolest rock and roll hotel in Cleveland, Ohio. The Swingers, yeah. No, it was a legendary rock and roll place where, I mean, we learned about it later that Elvis and made this his place while on tour. And Led Zeppelin and all those bands, they were swinging great parties at Swingos, you know. It was really like a legendary rock and roll happening place, and that's where we stayed in our first show on the tour. And from there on, I mean, in Cleveland, there was a lot of violence also in the crowd. The night before the stadium, there were gangs and there were fights, you know, and it was kind of it was a rough place, you know, and to be thrown in with all these amazing bands, Aerosmith and Thin Lizzy, AC/DC. I mean, we were all like super excited, like Rudolf said, and it was a very special experience. And then to go on tour, Scorpions opening up, AC/DC was a special guest, Ted Nugent was a headliner, and I remember having breakfast with Bon Scott in Fort Wayne, Indiana, you know, one morning, walking over some breakfast place across the street, you know, there was Bon sitting, hey, what's up, dude, you know? So we shared breakfast together, had a little talk, it was really nice. What a nice guy. And was something I also will never forget. Pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so many memories. I mean, it's the hardest thing when preparing for an interview with the Scorpions is just limiting yourself in just what you want to pick from, because there's just so much to talk about. But you touched on Ted Nugent, and do you ask such a person for advice? I mean, in that early stage, say, I mean, career-wise, you've already been touring a lot, but say First America tour, like, do you ask a person like that for advice, or is it more like just quietly standing backstage and, you know, watching how he performs, how he interacts with the audience, or do you actually have conversations?
We watched them on stage, of course, because the festival was the first step to a long stadium, arena tour with Ted Nugent. We were an opener and AC/DC special guest and Ted Nugent headliner. Of course, for us was very clear that we have to watch this guys, or Ted Nugent and the band, because he was already famous in Germany as this show monster, making some very outstanding, like Tarzan swinging around the stage, yes. And of course we watched, we tried to find our way to present us in the United States. We didn't take stuff, but we mixed something into our show and learned more and more and more.
For a young band coming from Germany, there was a lot we could learn, you know. And Ted was just a great showman, you know. And with every song, like, we used to be like, hey, this is the next song we play for you when we play the song. With Ted, you know, he was talking like crazy between the songs, and it was so much entertainment, you know, and was so different and so much fun to watch, you know. And also with AC/DC, they were also like going crazy with Bon Scott aiming us up on his shoulders during every show, going into the audience, all this stuff. It was an amazing package, and also for our crew, I guess, was a lot, you know, we could getting into this, and also they were very well respected very soon by all their American colleagues, just putting up a great show and having a great vibe between all those bands, you know. It was a great moment for us to kick off America and to get into this and to see America through the tour bus window. Every day was like just exciting. You didn't want to go to bed, you know, and most of the time we slept in the bunk on the bus anyway, you know. So, but waking up in the morning, you know, going to the fridge, getting out some drinks, stopped at some breakfast place, you know, and you drive through the Rocky Mountains, you know, early in the morning, just beautiful, you know. And there was so much for us to see, and of course, and especially in those early days, so much went into the songwriting, you know, writing songs like The Zoo from our first trip to New York City, you know. Even before we went to Cleveland, you know, Labor Crips, our management, they took us out for a walk, saying, let's go out for a walk on the Zoo, guys. And turned out to be 42nd Street, you know, and it was for us to write a song about it.
Not to forget, go back to Cleveland, because we forgot one band which was also on the bill. This was Cilicia, you know, with Phil Lynott and with Gary Moore, I think, at his days. It was great to see him. Also, I saw him in Sweden one more time again, and too bad that he's not anymore in the rock and roll party involved.
It was really that kind of part where you work your way up, coming back to the next level, and then we were in the special guest part, you know, for the show, not the support band anymore. You know, it was just learning by doing, you know, and you know, getting there. And with the response of the audience in America, it was obvious, you know, that they loved the band, they loved the energy, those crazy Germans, you know. It was really so much energy involved. And by the time we came to the Jazz Festival, you know, it was like, we like, wham! It was clear that Scorpions became part of the international family of rock.
Yeah. And yeah, you must have done a lot right, because like when I spoke to Doc McGee for this, he then told Bon Jovi to watch you guys, how you perform later.
Best thing I can do, same thing, you know, watching the headliners. They learned from us, same like Def Leppard. They supported us, they learned, and I remember at one point the guitar player, Pete Willis, who was on my side, he even bought the same guitar. I thought, that's too much now, you know. Maybe not, you know.
And it's such a difference to play, like when we came from Germany, you know, and we were like, when we came to America the first time in '79, we were a successful band. We did Japan, you know, we recorded a live album in Tokyo, and we were like already a successful band, you know, but to all of a sudden to be thrown into huge arenas to play 18, 20,000 seaters every night, that's a whole different story. And it's so different to be up on stage, and you really have to get into this and to communicate in America with the audience, because this is what it's all about, communication. It's not just songs, it's the whole performance of the band and the way you work it. And being German, you can imagine it was not so easy in the early days to get this communication thing on stage, especially for the lead singer. Watching singers like David Lee Roth, you know, he was also this kind of guy, wow. What about if we take a walk across the highway for a drink, you know, in front of 350,000 people, you know, crazy stuff. And so it was a whole different thing to get into it. And but we enjoyed it so much, and every day was just adventure.
Yeah. I mean, can you, because you got thrown in right to the stadium game, did you, I mean, you had, I guess, built up a significant audience in the beginning, but I imagine it to be such a hard or tough job to keep a crowd engaged of that size, because, I mean, how do you even do it? Like, what's the most important part? How do you give them the feeling, I mean, even on the last rung, that they are part of your show? Is there a way to explain that, or is it about the vibe that you just give on stage to the audience?
It's an energy.
Yeah,
it's a transformation. Yeah. It's a transformation. If you give energy, the people feel it, and they give energy back, and that's what's like.
You must imagine back in the day, to most people in the stadium, we were this small. You know, we didn't have any LED video screens, nothing. And if you play during the daytime, even the spotlights don't play a role. So it's just the music and the energy that the people are feeling. Of course, let's say the first 50 rows, they can see you. But, you know, further back, people just, you know, they just absorb the music and feel the energy. And that's the most important part.
And these days was very, very good, better than in these days, is no iPhones or no hands in the air. You know, that's for some people that they are in the back, very bad, like, because they can't see all their hands in the air with the iPhone. I want to make a film or stuff like this. in these days, there was a lighter, maybe, in the end, you know, when a ballad was there. That was a great feeling. We had only the energy. We were only working with music and
I
energy.
think when we played Can't Live Without You, there was a line when we did it. You know, like, hey, can you see my finger out there? Today they have their fingers on the iPhone, you know. Yeah, it's different, you know. But anyway, even today, being on stage, like we just played Rock in Rio in October in 2019, in front of 110,000 South American rock fans, crazy rock and rollers, you know. And when you stand in front of such a huge audience, you know, if it was back then in the 80s or now, you see all these people out there and going crazy in such a strong vibe. And this is like a give and take kind of thing, you know. You just absorb all the energy and give it back to them, you know.
Yeah.
And the way they belong. We have so many classics in the set, you know. So they know the songs, they know the words, and they sing along. And it builds a great atmosphere during the show. And I think after all these years, it's such a privilege to play in front of 3 generations, you know. In front of the stage, you see so many young kids, you know, and the older ones are a little more in the back. And it puts a smile on their face to see all the young ones going crazy on Blackout or Rock You Like a Hurricane. It's cool.
I mean, speaking to some bands and also just the agents, everybody's always telling me how insane people go in South America, or generally in places where they're just not that, what's the word, spoiled for choice, where they don't have tours or big bands coming through all the time. Like people say in places like that, like where the big bands come far less than say in the States, people just go extra nuts. Can you confirm that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's the temperament of the South Americans anyway. Mm-hmm. Like the Brazilians, the Colombians, Argentinians. They're the loudest crowd, and they love rock music. You know, they're really I don't think they like rap or pop music as much as they do like rock. It's different in other countries today, of course, but Mexico, the same thing. They're very hot-tempered and they love our music and they know the words by heart, they know everything about it.
Mm-hmm. When I spoke to your former agent and, as I understand, still very much a Scorpion family member, Nick Karris, for this piece, he had a funny comment regarding outfits back in the day, because he said, and I quote, that most rock bands wanted to be kind of as dirty looking as they could be in a sense, but you, the Scorpions, had outfits that were like European influence, at times crazy, but always spotless. That's what he said. And then was it a conscious decision at the time to, you know, separate yourself from the competition, that you weren't just wearing the same all black everything, maybe, even if black is a dominant color, but like, or was that simply, no, I'm just going to wear what I want?
Yeah, that was actually a way of the same situation. Like our music was more influenced by classical music here in Europe, in Germany. In America was more the kind of blues way. So we were also very much influenced by the fashion around us. And the fashion around us was London, of Carnegie Hall, and what was the name of the street, where the Beatles, the fashion guys, you know, everything, music was connected, Kensington Market, yeah, was connected to fashion. And I think we loved it. We loved it to have the boots, the Beatle boots, and find some maybe new way of using them, or the pants, a different way, always better than the normal way.
I mean, for the British bands, or I mean, when they were in London, you know, they went to Kensington Market, to King's Road, all those hip places. And I mean, band like Led Zeppelin, I think Robert Plant, they went wearing like a blouson, like from like ladies stuff, you know. They went in those stores looking for some ladies stuff, and with the high heel boots, you know. It was a cool thing. And when we, even with our first bands, I remember like Beatle boots. It was impossible to get Beatle boots around here, you know. I mean, you had to be in London, you know. And I remember I bought some ladies' boots, and they looked like the Beatles boots because they had a high heel. It was difficult to walk on them, but to be on stage with something that came close to the Beatles boots, it was a statement, you know. It's like you belong to this kind of family. It's rock and roll, you know. And it was a little harder to get this stuff around here in Germany, in Hanover. But when we came to England or to the US, you know, then there was talking about clothes and stage clothes, you know. It was always like a funky story to find the right thing. And later on, when we became more popular in the United States, there were designers like Fleur in LA, and they did all the crazy funky stuff for Aerosmith and other bands. And it was Doc McGee who said, "Come on, gotta set you up with Fleur. She's doing fantastic stuff, you know." And then I remember at the end of the 80s, it became very, very colorful. And like when the alternative music started, like even Metallica, when they started out, like around 88, they went back to like wearing a jeans and a t-shirt, you know. And like our generation of bands, we were still, you know, taking it a bit further and going crazy with all the colors and stuff. Looking back to all those pictures, you go like, God. You know.
That was a part of the time.
Yes,
For us, it was a part of the time, and you know, it's better.
Very colorful,
yes.
and it's, you know, a lot of fun, you know.
And we all looked the same.
80s were great.
You know, when Fleur came in, we all had our clothes made, and it was like, wow, this looks so cool. I want to have something like this as well, you know. But it was never like a uniform. We never, and even to this day, everybody is wearing what he's wearing. It's, or you feel good about it, you know. But in a weird way, it's mixing up, and it's like, it's a statement, of course. And you mentioned like the main color is black. No, give me the blackest black, you know. This is, it's still that way, you know.
You said like the local radio stations in each state in the US, especially in those early days, were one of the main ways to spread the word about Scorpions. Also, before you even went to the States, the underground stations broke a lot of your music. So the audience got introduced to you even before physically seeing you, so to speak. Do you miss that way of promoting albums, the radio station circuit, or is that even still existent in America and it's just nothing you know of in Germany?
Can't even like enter the radio station without like a special access pass anymore, and they don't do that anymore. But it was, for us, it was fantastic to promote ourselves, to promote the show that evening. We spent a lot of time at radio stations in each city, sometimes more than one. You know, we had a publicist who organized all these live interviews, and you know, we are driving around in a stretch limo from one radio station to the next in the afternoon, and then go do a sound check and then play the show. We announced the shows. We sometimes even did our own radio show. The DJ left the room and said, "Okay, you can do what you want to do for half an hour. I come back." I mean, he was pretending leaving the room, and I came back, but somebody had to operate the machines. But you know, those days are definitely gone. You know, today with all the like security measures, and you know, it was a great time. It was a fun time.
I mean, your musical output is truly eclectic, and I mean, I think this is an overused word, but in this sense, I think it's fair. Like for everything from hard and heavy bangers to the sweetest ballads, rock ballads, of course. Was that also a conscious decision, you know, to break up, say, a string of heavy records on an album, or simply a result of the fact that, you know, this range of emotions is just inside every human being, so naturally they'll come out on the record? Or did you say, no, we need to have some softer stuff there just so people aren't like, I don't know, overwhelmed?
It was naturally, because there was my writing stuff. You know, sometimes you have a theme where you're saying, oh, that's a good slow number, that's good. Maybe try to follow the way and get something out of it. And then you had a number which was maybe not so good and sometimes great. You know, the combination. I think it's always when the rock band writes a ballad, that's something, because there is some kind of edge in it. It's not too soft, it's not too poppy. It somehow means something. And that's for us important. That's what Jimmy Page and Led Zeppelin was showing us with Stairways to Heaven. This is something, or A Silent Time with Deep Purple. This was the kind of image which was in your mindset. Yeah, to make a song like this, that would be great. So, and you know, if you follow this road, sooner or later you will get into this kind of moment where you catch this vibration, and then you bring it into your song. But the thing is also, as a rock band, you have both sides on your hand, you know, especially when we be on stage. You know, the girls, of course, they're not in the harder stuff in the early days. Now it's maybe different. But when there is a great ballad, a few ballads, you know, they are in it as well. And then you get them with the harder stuff as well. And that was our feeling. We had, I think, sometimes around 60 male and 40 female. And that's fantastic for rock bands.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of your songs, do you recall which Scorpions song took the least amount of time to write, just because the inspiration was so flowing? Is there like one that comes to mind? Like, yeah, we recorded that. I mean, we wrote and recorded that in a couple of hours or something.
Well, I think basically that goes for Sign of Hope, you know, which came out about when we came back from Singapore. And I think Matthias and me were the only ones wearing a mask when we arrived in Hamburg. And then week after week, situation became more serious with coronavirus. And being in this lockdown, so I guess we all changed from the lockdown into the creative mode in a way. And so it was a good thing that we had a chance to deep down into our own creative world, you know, and come up with something that just was reflecting this moment in time. And Sign of Hope was exactly this kind of song that came straight from the heart in troubled times, and was not a big deal of working for days and days to find the hook or whatever, you know. It just came out, picked the guitar and played the song, recorded it, and I thought there was something. I thought it was a nice thing to put it out on the social media to give a little sign of hope in this very dramatic moment, not only here in Germany, but all over the world. We all go through the same thing right now, and it's a challenge for all of us. And you take the dark side of it and all the touching images we saw, and so many people were dying. This terrible virus, when it started getting very dramatic here in Italy and Spain, and then also what was going on in New York City and other places. It's also a moment, you know, where the whole world must stick together, must be stronger together, and to face the situation and go through, but also not forget there's still hope, hoping for that this coronavirus pandemic will be hopefully over soon, and there will be better times around the corner. And that's what this song, it's just a little song with this message, and hopefully we all go back to a normal life sooner or later.
That's a very good way to describe a fast way of a song. And there's another thing in the career of the Scorpions was Still Loving You. The song was written 7 years before we really record the song, because we tried to play the song in a rehearsal studio, every album again and again, until to the moment I exactly know it was in a studio in Hanover, in a rehearsal studio, and I started again to play the song. And then in the moment, it was like timing was perfect. Everything was coming together like a puzzle. After 7 years, that was fantastic. And that's maybe also something you have to think about when you play music, when you be excited. Give time for something, because time, everything has his time. And you know, if you wait long enough, then waiting is a good thing to do.
That's why the song starts with time.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the first line. Time. It needs.
Yeah, it took time.
It's like taking a walk here in Germany in a snowstorm, you know, and probably I was thinking about for quite a while about those lyrics for the song, because the song was known for quite a while, like Rudolf said, 7 years. But sometimes it takes until it clicks, you know. And in this snowstorm, I had those opening lines, and I pretty much had, not all of it, but most of it just came all about. But I had no piece of paper with me, no pen, nothing. So I was like in a hurry to get back home to write it all down, you know. And but you can feel it when you have a song, whether it's like a great chorus melody or it's a hook line, or to find the right words, you know, deep inside, this is the right thing. It just, because it feels good, it feels right, you know. And fortunately, we recorded that song because it became one of our most successful songs. Still Loving You, such a power ballad, and but like what I said, sometimes it takes some time. And some other things come just like this. You never know. You just follow your instinct. And the good thing is, after all these years, that we're still creative, and it's still a joy. It's still very positive vibe to dig into your own creative world, to write new material, you know, because the most terrifying thing would be if you want to write something and you're totally blacked out and you have this empty piece of paper, you know, you want to write some words and there's nothing. That must be terrible. It happens sometimes as well, especially in a long career, but it feels so good when you know it's still working, you know. And with this new album, it's kind of the same. I hear this question every other time. So with this new album, you go back to the vault, you know, digging out for some old material like you did in with Return to Forever, where there was a lot of stuff coming back from the old days. But the vault is like emptied out, you know. And it's, this new album is all about new songs. It's totally fresh, and it's Scorpions 2019, 2020. This is all brand new stuff.
I just wanted to briefly touch on the Magic Bus as well, because the entire world of rock music fans must, I mean, they would have given everything, I guess, to have been a fly on the wall of that bus, on, I mean, of the plane. Obviously, it was a plane. Can you maybe share with us what was talked about on that bus? I mean, everybody was on there. I won't even start trying to list the bands because I'm sure going to forget some, but the rock royalty was on that bus. So what do you talk about in that setting?
Most of them were sleeping because they were all totally fucked up. You know,
we on the bus in London, and the rest of the bands came over from some point in America. I don't know, LA or
New
York. Okay, they took off in New York. Okay. And it was about the Moscow Music and Peace Festival. And, you know, one of the reasons was also, you know, against drugs and drinking. And but when we joined the bus, they were all drunk like hell. And most of them were already sleeping, exhausted. And but you know,
They probably thought they landed in Moscow when they touched down in London.
yeah, but probably they thought they're already there. But then we came forward. I remember I talked to especially Tico Torres. You know, we were always good friends, and Richie Zambora, and you know, we knew the Bon Jovi guys very well from the time when we toured together. And Osborne, the Motleys were there. You know, it was a good atmosphere on the bus.
But
I heard Doc McGee was telling the story about the Moscow Peace Festival. So some journalist was asking him, Doc, you put all those bands behind the Iron Curtain into Moscow, straight and right into the Cold War, you know? And Doc's answer was, they didn't know about anything about the Cold War.
Yeah.
Because that's what another question. I was like, did you have any conversations with anyone, you know, about just giving them some historic background on the place they were about to perform at? Because obviously there was, for you, it was huge.
Yeah.
Okay, we had some experience already because we did 10 shows in Leningrad, in this little Leningrad. And we already had this experience, you know, and we had already, like we talked about Still Loving You was a big hit, #1, even when they didn't have charts, but that was #1 song in Russia. And so in this case, we had experience. So when we went over with the other guys, then we know already what is happening now and how the whole situation will, I think for the American guys or English, this must be like a shock, you know, because even it was already a step further, because I remember when the Rocky Park was, Hartwell Cafe had a great place over there, and they played music, rock music out of the trees, with hanging speakers in the trees, and you could listen to rock and stuff, which wasn't impossible 1 year before. In this 1 year, we're playing in Leningrad, and 1 year later, when the Music Peace Festival was happening, it was a big step happening. In this case, for us was normal. For the American English guys, that was a little bit a journey, very outstanding journey.
Yeah. I got
We had an audience in Russia already, even before we played in Leningrad. They knew our songs. They were driving for hundreds and hundreds of miles on a train, you know, to duplicate some cassettes on the black market, you know, to get hold on to music, you know, Western music. We're totally crazy about it. And when we played Leningrad, you could see it was like Beatlemania, completely. People were completely nuts.
Yeah.
And of course, we were excited 1 year later to go back to Moscow, to finally play in Moscow. And it was an amazing setup of bands. The lineup was amazing with Ozzy, Bon Jovi, Motley Crue, Gorky Park, some Russian bands, Brigade X, I think, Cinderella. You know, it was some great bands. It was amazing. It would be an amazing lineup in somewhere in the West, you know, not just. But to have this festival in Moscow, and they put up the Olympic fire, you know, and it was like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, the stadium there, like a couple of years ago, the Olympics were cancelled.
Boycotted by the West.
Boycotted by the West because Afghanistan and a lot of politics stuff. And so it was really like, something must have changed that all of a sudden this was happening in August 89.
Yeah. Just to be clear, when I said it was huge, I didn't necessarily mean in terms of audience, because as you said, you played 10 Leningrads just the year before. I meant like the meaning was huge for a Western band to play in the East, and that meaning would have been the same for the people in Russia to have all the Western bands coming over. I was just wondering whether the American bands and the English bands were aware how significant that was at that time.
I don't think so. I don't know. You know, I remember the first band that went up there. I mean, it was the mayor of Moscow holding a speech, you know, with a suit and tie, you know, and very formal, you know, proudly to present, you know, Skid Row, you know, and Sebastian Bach comes out, motherfucker! You know. Yeah. This was, so the tone was set for the night, you know. Crazy. And by the time we get on, I mean, the only band out of all those acts, you know, the only one which was also pretty popular in Russia was Ozzy Osbourne. You know, he had a fan following there as well.
Yeah.
But then when we came up on stage, it was like totally crazy. And it was an amazing moment in time, you know.
Yeah.
And the main difference for us, I mean, we played in Leningrad 1 year before, but we grew up not too far away from the Berlin Wall, you know. We had a much closer vibe, and the emotions were completely different from all the American bands, English bands, because our parents went to war with Russia and the rest of the world, you know, and we felt very much when we played Leningrad, being a German band. I mean, after all these years of worldwide success, especially in the United States, but when we arrived in Leningrad in '88, we felt very much like being a German band, you know, we history, you know, and 1 year later, it was just crazy, like, it was like Woodstock, you know, but it was in Russia, it was in the Soviet Union, way before, a couple of months before the Berlin Wall came down, you know. But it was all about the change, and there was a young generation, and they loved rock music, and they were totally into it.
I got 4 more quick questions. Are we good for time? I know you've already given a lot of your time.
That's good.
All right. So yes, of course, your band had different lineups over all the years, but this core setup that I have the pleasure of currently speaking with right now has been together for a very long time. So what's your secret, or are you simply soulmates?
I guess we must be soulmates, you know, and I think the 3 of us, we know that this is a very, very unique story for a German band breaking out of West Germany, Hanover, to become like a world act, to play and perform for, now it's more than 50 years on a global stage, you know. So we're all aware that this is something very, very special, you know, and you probably can't compare it to no other band in the world, because it's where we come from, you know, and that's so special. And English is not even our mother language, you know, but we managed to reach the whole world with our music, with our lyrics, with what we are saying, with our philosophy of love and peace, you know, and just being the band we are, you know, and every other year we go out there and just to build bridges with music, and it's all in our genes, the way we grew up after the Second World War, after the Holocaust and all that, and growing up in a country where you could not be proud of your country, you know. So very early on, we wanted to be part of the world community, we wanted to be part of the family of rock, you know, not being so much like a German band. We sang English because we wanted to, and because we were inspired by all these amazing American British acts that came over even in the 50s with Elvis, Little Richard, all these amazing artists, then Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones, Beatles, and then the Who, the Kings, all these bands. So we wanted to sing in English, but also we wanted to take ourselves no limit. We wanted to not just play inside Germany. We want to play in Germany. Yes, we're Germans, nothing wrong with that. But we want to be part of the whole world community of music, of art, you know. And to make that, you can imagine you need so much power, and you have to be able to run the extra mile and not to give up, never. And also always be ready to take it up to the next level, you know, with all the changes and members, you know. And early on with Michael Schenker left the band, went to UFO in London. Uli John Ross came in, then he left. He wanted to do his own career, play his own music. Matthias joined the band, you know. So, and then we found that what many people today call like the best area of the band throughout the 80s, with all those very successful albums. Then there was Wind of Change, and then there was the Berlin Philharmonics. Actually, it's 20 years ago. We played not too far away from this place, right here, not too far away, where we played a huge concert with the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra. So there were many milestone moments, like the US Festival in California, like Rock in Rio in '85, the Moscow Peace Festival in '89. And so the story goes on and on and on. And we grew into this, but the basic of all of this was always a love for music. The love for music, and the absolutely the power behind it, and the willpower is the right word, the willpower to make it and to deliver, you know. And for us, the best way to deliver was always not only writing great songs, but it was always to go up on stage. And if there was a great competition, even better, you know, because we knew then we give it all it takes, all it needs to survive this competition and go out of it like being the winner, you know, and take your career to the next step, to the next level. You know, it was always about taking on a new challenge. Like with this new album, who would think the Scorpions would make a new record in 2020? You know, who would think about it? It's kind of crazy, you know, but we're crazy enough to do it, you know, and we enjoy it. We enjoy the challenge of it. You know, it would be so easy to say, oh, come on, we put 2 or 3 songs out there on the social medias and have 2 new songs in the set, and that's about it, you know, but, or not even that. But we all agreed, let's make a new album, and that's quite a decision, you know. But we know if we make it good, and if we give all we have, all we can give our fan community and beyond, then it's gonna be great, and it feels good for us, and it will be great for our fans, and it feels even better when we go back on stage with a new tour, with a new song, with new songs, with new production, with a whole new set. You know, it's gonna be great for us. The way we feel, even with every other year, not getting any younger, you know, but this is the kind of spirit and the kind of challenge that keeps us going, and that feels great and keeps us alive.
Mm-hmm. Because I'm just thinking in like 55 years now, I mean, give or take, of career, with successes and like crowds and a life that is just unfathomable for normal human beings, I'd say. I find it just fascinating because you see so many people getting carried away. I mean, what helps you just stay, how should I say, you know, yeah, maybe sane on the one hand and humble on the other hand, to still, you know, take out the time to do interviews like this, to be respectful, to not run on stage like motherfucker. What makes you what keeps you grounded?
Hanover. Yes, because we didn't go to Los Angeles or to Nashville or to London or somewhere else. We stayed where we came from. And I think that's a very good thing. When you have a tour and, you know, you stay for 1 week in Los Angeles, Hollywood Boulevard and everything. Hey, how are you? And all this kind of crazy things happening. You know, it's fine. You can play this role, no problem. But when you come back home and you come back where you really come from, then you notice where you come from more again. You ground yourself by meeting your friends and. And I think that's, if you take this serious, and if you're not into music serious, then you know what you have. You have something very to appreciate it. And that's what a very important point is, you know. You not can go in the air and fly away.
The whole story of success is also, it's a good thing when you enjoy success, and even a great success, when you never forget where you come from. You know, it's like a quality in every personality and in everybody in the band. You know, it's a good thing. It's a healthy thing. I mean, we saw a lot of bands along the way going completely nuts, you know, with a little touch of success, you know, but even in the very early days, you know, because people thought now they own the world, and it changed their personality. It changed the way they talk to people, the way they just the way they come around, you know. It changed. Success will change and can change people a lot, you know, and it does, and you can see it many times. And it's a lot about egos in this world of music, in this wonderful world of music. It's a lot of egos, and many great bands were killed when it just about egos. You know, they couldn't take it any further. And even the biggest bands on the planet, like the Beatles, you know, when you think back, what happened? I mean, many say that it was Yoko, but probably it was a lot of other things as well. And they faced, with all the amazing success, they faced so many problems. So it ended that way, which was sad for all the fans, but it probably was the only way for them to move on. You know, so it's always about how you work together, how you respect each other, and you go through changes, and you also go through changes in your life, also in your private life, you know. And somehow we managed that it worked with the Scorpions, and even with different members coming in, leaving, coming in, like James Kodak left the band, Mickey D joined the band, you know, Pavel, Machivoda. I remember right here, we were sitting in the studio. He had his audition right here in the studio around 2003. And so we had many great musicians and many great, also very creative people like Herman. We wrote many great songs together. You know, they're not forgotten, not at all. They're part of the history. They're part of this big tree of Scorpions. And yeah, finally, at the end of the day, it's the three of us. And we managed to get through this, all these up and downs in all those years, you know. And it feels really good that we're still around, and we're still talking about a creative future, you know, and that we still enjoy what we're doing, you know.
Yes. Two last questions, I promise. One, because you just touched on the history. When I talked to Peter Mensch, he asked me to ask you, why did you not go with him back when he set up Q Prime and you went with Doc McGee?
You know, please tell Peter. And we thought many times about it, especially in the last 12 months or even longer, why we made the decision the way we made it. You know, we would love to invite Peter to have a nice dinner with us, a nice evening, and we can talk through all those special moments. And I know his heart still hurts, maybe not as much back then, of course, but I know, and I saw in recent interviews he did, you know, it's still an issue for him, you know, and in a way it's still an issue for us, you know, but we have the deepest respect for Peter. And today, looking back, we know even more, we understand even more what went down back in the early days with Leather Crabs and then and in the mid 80s when we decided for Doc McGee and downplayed Peter. And you never know, but all we know is that we love Peter, and the fact you bring on this message and this question, so please tell him we would love to meet with him, have a nice dinner together, talk about the old times, and like you say, bury the what? To bury the
hatchet.
The what? The hatchet?
Bury the hatchet.
Exactly. You know, it would be very nice. And so Peter, the Scorpion, come on. We take you out for a nice dinner, or we go wherever you want us to go, and we hang out, have a nice evening. And we never forget what you've done for us in the early days. Never.
I appreciate that. And I'm sure Peter will as well. So looking forward, album is in the making. Are you even thinking about touring? I mean, of course there will be a tour, but are you even bothering thinking about it, as long as nobody can tell what's going to happen in these coming months? Could you see yourself doing a drive-in theater tour or a live streamed concert tour? If you could answer that alongside with that one question, that would be great.
Just talked about it yesterday. Great. And those these, how do you call them, the car movie theater type of shows.
Yeah.
They've been those here in our town for a long time, but it's it doesn't have any atmosphere. I don't think for the audience, and especially not for the bands. You need to be able to communicate with your audience, and that's the same thing if you do like live stream shows in some studio without an audience. It gives people something to watch, but for the artist, you know, especially for a band like the Scorpions who loves to communicate with the audience, what you're gonna do? You can maybe like hold that energy level for the first 2-3 songs, but what do you do after 1 hour? If there's nobody to play to, nobody to talk to, and nobody who can sing along with you, and I don't think that feels right. I think it's not really an option for us. We know that plan A, it might be that we play our biggest residency, which was planned for July of this year, next year in May, but who knows if it's going to happen. So we will have a plan B with, like, let's say it takes even more time to find the vaccination, because that's basically the key to go back to a normal life and have the entertainment business like start again. And that's the only way, because, you know, who wants to go to a show? I saw pictures the other day where the musicians had a bubble around the head, and so did the audience, the few people. I mean, that is crap. You know, that's not what we want to do. So we rather wait it out and then start it the proper way.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, my last question was, what advice would you give an up-and-coming band that wants to make a career out of their love for rock music?
Good luck.
I mean, in these days, you know, I feel really sorry for all those who just were starting out or had plans to start a tour in 2020, or, you know, release their first album or their second album, whatever. You know, any young artists who had like everything ready to go for this year, and now they can't do anything. So I really feel sorry for them. We have the opportunity to, which we hardly ever do unless we do an interview, to look back on our long and great career. You know, we can wait it out, but for those who have to start their career now, you know, we can only hope that the vaccination will be found very soon.
Yeah. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking so much time again. Matthias Jabs, Rudolf Schenker, Klaus Meine, the Scorpions. Klaus, you touched on the milestones. I suggest everybody who's viewing this check out the even longer interview in the magazine. It includes a couple of pictures of those milestones, including a couple of others like the Wall concert in Berlin and stuff. Thank you so much for taking the time. All the best with the album recording. And yeah, I think I speak in the name of every live music fan out there if I say we really hope to see you and of course the millions of other bands, but in this case especially you on the road again very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.